Hi everyone, welcome to another Learn, Grow, Invest meeting. It is good to have you here today. We are live, so it is, we have another good one here for you this evening. I'm joined by my co-host, value investor, Chike Verwe. So
Hey
we're
everyone.
gonna be talking about real estate today. So we're gonna meet with some persons who have developed a very interesting piece of technology, a platform that will allow you to it innovates the process. Let me just
Yep.
say that I don't want to give away too much. Before we get into our meeting though, I really want you to share this video. I want you to give it a like right now. There are 6 persons on. I want all 6 persons to like the video right now. I want you to subscribe if you haven't done so before. And we're going to be talking with some persons from Smart Eco Blockchain Solutions and Innovate 10X team today. So before we do that, I'm going to open up in prayer as we normally do. So let us pray. Lord, thank you so much for today and everything that you've blessed us with. Father, as we engage in this conversation, I pray that you'll give us wisdom, you'll give us insight for those who are interested in this form of investing. I pray for wisdom that they may be able to maximize their returns. And we dedicate this meeting to your glory in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so let me try and do justice to our guests. So the Jamaica Property Exchange Network is a joint venture between Smart Eco Blockchain Solutions and Innovate 10X. Both are Jamaican entities. Smart Eco specializes in products to digitize economies, promoting inclusion, efficiencies, and transparency. Extremely important. Innovate 10X's mandate is to bridge the gap between the innovation room and the boardroom, bringing relevant tech solutions to market while providing a platform for businesses and innovators to collaborate. The synergistic relationship between both companies has resulted in uniquely strategic competencies relevant to bring a much needed platform like JPEN to the Jamaican market, a transparent, digitized end-to-end platform for the sale, rental, and auction of real estate and more. And guys, I've gotten just a little bit of a preview of this platform. It definitely, I think, is capable of delivering on just everything that I've said so far. So let me welcome the guys here. We have Clive, we have Xavier, and we have Kemar. Welcome, guys.
Welcome,
Good evening.
guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
Good evening, everyone.
All right, no problem. So hopefully I've done justice to your intro. Is there anything that you want to say to our audience before we start about what you do and the purpose of your project?
I think you pretty much summed it up, really, is that the collaboration between the two companies, the sole purpose was to bring about digitization, bring about transparency, and kind of democratize the process of real estate in Jamaica, well, worldwide, and in Jamaica in particular. This is where we're operating. Real estate can be seen as this very nuanced kind of murky water territory for people to get involved in, and so with a platform like this, it not only will it kind of hold your hand through the process, but it also makes it more inviting and allows for more assurance within the transaction.
Yeah, there's still a lot about the process that I can tell you. I've already bought a home. I still don't understand the process. And it took way too long. It took almost 9 months for us to actually go through the process once we've selected a home, and I think that's way too long. So I definitely like what we're going to be showing here today, because I think you guys can definitely help with that process. So I believe we're going to start with a demo. So I believe, Kamar, you're going to be sharing your screen.
Yes, I will.
All right. So once that is ready, I'll just bring that up. But For our audience, if you have questions, just post them in the comments below. If you're watching this on the replay, just be sure to leave your comments for the team below. Leave your questions and we'll definitely put their contact information for you to be able to reach out. So I'm going to share. Let me know when to share.
You can go ahead.
Okay.
All right, so I'm assuming everyone is seeing the screen.
Yep.
All right, so here is JPEN in a nutshell. This is the purchaser's profile when they go onto the platform. So we're going to do a quick sales transaction on the platform. Clicking on listings would bring up all the listing of the types of properties, whether it's sale, auction, and rent. So we're just going to walk through a sales process. Here you could click on the properties. One of the images that they were broken. So you could click on the properties, scroll through. If you like it, you could then go ahead and make an offer. So in making an offer, that offer hits the vendors and the realtor agent in real time. So they're asking 12.5. I'm going to offer them 12 million. And let's say I want to deposit 3. An offer expiry date, I'm giving them until the end of March. And I'm expecting this property to be handed over, let's say by April, end of April. Here, the platform is requesting a few documents from me. So my poker form. So let's say this is my filled out poker form, my identification, proof of address using a light bill, and source of fund. And then all I have to do is just click make an offer. All right, so my offer has been sent, which is great. Here, the purchaser just sits back and allow the platform to work its way. Here, I am going to sign in as the agent. Sorry. All right, so I'm signed in as the agent. As the agent on the platform, you're able to see all the offers that are currently on the properties that you have listed. Here is the one that was listed today, and we can see that the offer was sent, 12 million. We can see the status of the offer, sorry, which is open. Here, the purchaser had sent in the offer. So if we had multiple offers on the property, we would have seen a list of offers over this side, and the agent or the broker, the vendor of the property could go in and view each one of these offers independently. So here we could, the agent is able to download your identification and all the documents that you have uploaded, so that they could either pre-approve you or conditionally accept. So we're going the happy path. We're going to pre-approve.
Nice.
So in pre-approving now, that shortlists you to go to the broker to do some more KYC checks. That way, that way the broker can go ahead and approve your offer so that the vendor can make the final say on the property. So here I'm going to sign in as the broker. Same property, same person. We can see now that the status has changed from open to pre-approved. And even the purchaser will receive updates each time the process has changed. So once the offer moves from open, it will then update in an email to say your status has now moved to pre-approved. Here, the broker is able to download all the poker forms and IDs and all of that to do his KYC check. Once everything works out, he approves. And the only thing left now is for the vendor to go in and accept that offer. So you notice the status move to approved. Let's view the offer. The vendor has the ability to accept, reject, or counter the offer. So let's accept. Here, this is where the sales management process becomes a bit more seamlessly for most individuals. So here I'm able to download my offer to purchase form. You notice that the form is now pre-populated with all the relevant information. So purchase amount, the deposit, all of that is being generated inside of the platform for you. So once you download it, if you have any additional information to input, you could just sign it and then re-upload it back to the platform. Here we have an overview of all the persons who are engaged in this particular sale. So we can see who's the purchaser, we can see who's the agent. Because I'm viewing as the realtor vendor or the vendor of the property, I would not be on this list currently. So let's invite a lawyer. The system is able to give you lawyers that were recently added to the platform. So if it's a case that you don't know any lawyers, the lawyers will be here in a pool. So all you have to do is select a lawyer, or you can invite your own lawyer if it's a case that you know who your lawyer is. Let's go ahead and invite a lawyer. So in the case of me inviting a lawyer now, I am going to act as a lawyer. System going to, sorry. So here it says Kemar was pre-approved. So this was the purchaser receiving his or her email. So you notice that the system is now asking me for my service request. Or let me sign out so I can sign in as the lawyer. I hate managing multiple accounts. All right, just so to save time, let's go back in as the vendor. All right, so with the document management process, we could create one. It's called a sales agreement. And sales let's say we want to finish the end of February and the process is urgent. So we created a process. View document timeline. Here, the persons who are engaged in the sales process is now able to request documents at any given time. So I could call this light bill. Please upload the light bill for the property. Here, here we can go and view that same document timeline. Oh, sorry, active sales. We can see what the person had requested. Let's say the vendor or the lawyer for the property would have uploaded that document saying that this is a JPS bill. He can select who is eligible to view it. So for instance, let's say everyone, and click submit. So then if I was supposed to go back over to this tab and refresh, I'm now able to see that John Doe has uploaded something. You will also get an email to say that status has been changed in the document process management system. Here, let's go back to the document management editor. Here we have a template in the system that would generate a sales agreement. So it would make the lawyer's life a bit much easier. If they want, they could just delete it. Control A. They could just delete everything and upload their own and save as a new version, which would then show you a version number when it was edited and by who. So pretty much this is where our platform ends at the moment. I think my colleagues will be speaking on the process that we're looking for and heading towards.
Thank you so much, Kamar.
All right, thank you.
So to kind of demystify what we just saw, or we kind of just digitally demystified the real estate transaction process, right? So to put what you just saw in words to get a better understanding and then deep dive into the process
That's
itself.
what I was going to ask you for, because there are probably some persons looking on, not really sure what's happening. So I wanted you to just kind of explain. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Perfect. So at the risk of kind of oversimplifying the process, essentially what you just saw was a sales transaction take place from beginning to end. You may have heard terms such as POCA or KYC AML, and this is nothing to be daunted by, nothing to be discouraged by. POCA is simply POCA, the Proceeds of Crime Act, right? And so this is just a simple document that you have to fill out. If you've ever dealt with a financial institution, you would have had to have gone through some form of KYC AML screening. Now, KYC is know your customer or know your client. AML is anti-money laundering, right? And so these are just processes that financial institutions have to go through when they're vetting their clients. Similarly, real estate. So obviously, with real estate transactions, there's large amounts of money being transferred, and so they just have to keep track of that. And that's all those forms are. So the Proceeds of Crime Act and the Know Your Customer documents. So that's kind of what we went through a while ago. All of that was filled out as Kamar had demonstrated. And then so what happened now is the person making the offer basically said, this is my information on those particular documents. And then the realtor or the broker that was handling the real estate transaction was able to say, okay, this is Xavier. Xavier makes his money and this is his living. He's a business development manager or whatever he is. He works for whatever company. Let's pre-approve him, right? Now we move on to the next step. We bring it to the vendor, the person actually selling the property, and the person selling the property says, okay, Xavier offered $11.5 million on a $12 million property. Yeah, you know what? I'll sell my property. And then we went through now to the next stage where everything pre-populated the sales agreement. The sales agreement is another interesting feature of the Jamaica Property Exchange Network. Reason being is this now is kind of where a lot of people fumble with or have a problem with, in the sense that what you find is once you start to send information back and forth between attorneys or between any entities, that's kind of where it starts to take up time. And you don't know if it's my attorney, your attorney. You don't know if it's my realtor, your realtor. Who has the documents? Who has to fill out what? What's happening? And so this process now, when you bring everything onto JPEN platform, you're able to see exactly who has a sales agreement or who needs to take the next step, right? And then within the sales agreement, we've made it extremely easy, wherein you could use a pre-populated template, or you could have your attorney upload their template. So we make it very easy. So the idea is not to be too rigid, but to be disruptive within a framework that the attorneys already understand and are comfortable with, because the idea here is to collaborate, right? So now they're able to say, well, you know, I'll buy the house at 11.5 million, but you have to fix the gate or you have to fix the roof, right? Another process that Kemar had showed was the uploading of documents such as maybe a water bill or a utility bill. Maybe more so a water bill would have been a good example, because what you don't want is to acquire a property that has money owing on it, right? And so you're able now to upload the document to show, hey, there is actually no money being owed on this property. And so we could go ahead with the sale. Clive, back me up here. Did I leave off anything, or I know you're the expert here now?
At a very high, that's a simple high level. Yeah, I think that is very much aligned with the process.
So in terms of, so let's say that somebody has never really been introduced to the process of buying a home. A lot of our community members may have heard that, you know, real estate is something that they should invest in, but they're not really familiar with the process. So you just gave a high level, Xavier, but what aspects of the process now takes the most time? And the reason why I asked that question is that I think highlights just how much time they'll save using a platform like JPEN. And then we can, you know, talk about why that would matter as an investor, because naturally we're looking to realize returns on our investment as soon as possible. If the buying process, you know, takes us 6 to 9 months or longer, then that's a longer time for us to turn over that investment. So just kind of help us, you know, understand what points take the longest and why, and how JPEN kind of solves that for us.
Right. So typically speaking, and Clive, you could feel free to jump in and cut me if I do go wrong. But typically speaking, the time is in the documentation, right? And it's on everybody's side. It's the time it takes for the purchaser, the person buying the property, to provide all the relevant documents and have those documents checked out, right? Then it's the time to check those documents out. So how the platform helps now, it would say, hey, Xavier, you still need to upload your driver's license. You still need to upload your proof of funds, your source of funds, that kind of thing, a job letter for argument's sake, right? And then it will also tell the vendor, or it will also now help the vendor manage all of those documents, right? Likewise, it will show you exactly who has the next step, right? So let us say all of my documents were uploaded. The vendor can't say, or the agent, no one will be able to say, well, you know, we're waiting on documents, because the documents were in fact there. So I think the document management process is one of the biggest parts to the whole thing. Is Clive?
Yeah, let me jump in here. So again, I'm just gonna try and containerize or kind of articulate some phases to the process. So there's a offer management piece where before you even, it's like a tender process where several people are bidding. It's not really a bid, but it's more like various offers, people making offers to through the realtor agent, for example. Let's say you're driving in a community and you see a property you like, you see the sign, you see, the agent's face and the number. Normally you would call that number, if there's an email, or you contact the company that they're with, and you would leave some information, and there's some back and forth about, like, information about the property price and so on. What the agent is going to try and do is get a quick idea of who you are. Are you serious? You can just imagine on any given Sunday. Sunday is like the day when people kind of drive around looking for a place and so on to buy. On any given Sunday, an agent might be getting like, 20, 30, 40 calls for one property, depending on how hot the property is. And so that can be that, and maybe that goes to some voicemail, a very inefficient process. They're going to have to call. You may not get a call back. You might be the serious one, but they'll have to call back that person and, talk to them and say, okay, what are your proof of funds? Do you have a pre-approval letter? Are you a criminal? Poker, the poker form. It requests all that information. That has to be email, scanned, fax, or however you're gonna get that to the agent. Agent now has to make sure that everything is in place. I'm purposely going through the manual process to kind of show you the pain point here.
Yeah, man,
because
I'm feeling the pain right now, actually. I'm feeling the pain. As you're explaining it, I'm feeling the pain because I went through everything that you just mentioned so far.
Well, there was actually Clive touched on a point right now that I think we both kind of forgot, and you said it perfectly, Clive. Is the negotiation process, right? And so right now, let's say we're buying a house from Jermaine. I'm a purchaser. Clive is a purchaser, right? Your house is $12 million. I submit $10 million, and then Clive submits 10.5. Right now, that entire process is manual, right? I know every single time I have to make an offer on a property or a new offer, it has to be filled out manually. But right
Yes.
now on this platform, it's done digitally real time. And that in itself will save a lot of time and headache, the back and forth of repopulating those documents manually by hand over and over again.
Okay.
yeah, so let me could I answer Shireen Anderson's question quick? The platform is for everybody. Right now the platform allows for all the people you mentioned, the broker, the agent. The broker is different from the agent, the vendor, the attorney, and multiple purchasers. So just go onto the platform, the purchasers make their offers, submit securely, share their information, because we are using a secure technology. The submission of the document is being done on one platform, as opposed to you sending your personal information to somebody's email, which is not very aligned with the Data Protection Act. But rather, have a secure environment where you can submit your documents. Only those people who are linked in the workflow, only they will be able to access the document through the platform. The broker has to review, and they are legally required to do a background check to make sure that there isn't any money laundering going on, politically exposed criminals, etc. And then that process, all of that manual process, that it's done so quickly and easily on the platform. Once that is done, it is very important for the broker or the agent to secure a signature on an offer document. Now, an offer document is not the same as a sale agreement, but the offer document is very important to the sale agent and the listing agent and the sale agent, because that is the document that will make them have a right to receive their commission. It is it is an asset to them. To the buyer and the seller, not so much. They still have to go off and draft another sale agreement between themselves. But the agent is definitely going to want you to sign that offer document, which was displayed in the demo. So our platform generates that. So that is a value right there for the realtor, agent, the brokers. It digitizes that whole process, which normally takes quite a while. Once that is done, and the lawyer is now engaged, the lawyer is invited onto the platform. They may be on it already. They get an invitation. They can reject it if they don't know you, but it will advise them in an email that your client Beckford is asking you to come on the platform to review this sale offer and to draft a sale agreement. They log on to the platform. It's very easy, very seamless. There's an email verification process, a validation. They log on securely, and now they have access to all of the documents that have already been exchanged, the information. So again, in the manual world, somebody, maybe a courier, would have to take that and bring it to the lawyer's office. It goes in an inbox, and it sits there for a couple of days, and then the lawyer look at it and shuffling stuff around.
Additional
And
costs and
before
steps.
other additional costs and steps. It's all on one platform. They log on, they get all the information. Right away, they can start working. They can start doing due diligence. They can start doing verification checks. They can start requesting a copy of the title, or a copy of the water bill. And there are other type of documents that they can even start to do their caveat search. All the information is there. There's no excuse for the lawyer to say, well, I haven't received all the information, And now, as Xavier said, the delays is because of the manual process, and a lot of the stakeholders, they're overwhelmed, in these manual processes with a digital workflow reminding people, and everybody has visibility of it. You can see how long. You can log on the platform and you can see the document life cycle. You can see the history, you can see how long the lawyer got to log on to the platform, how long ago they looked at it, the platform also has a template. I'm not sure if we had demoed that, but it has a templated, an ability to have a template sale agreement, which
Yeah, man,
could
we went through
be
that.
provided by the various lawyers that are listed on the platform. So it allows the lawyers to scale their business and to serve more people, by allowing them to access their assets on the platform. Once that is generated, the next step is to print that off and take it to the stamp office, and the tax admin office as well, to do a valuation. So so you can determine how much transfer tax is to be paid. And once the agreement is drafted as well, it needs to go off again to the stamp office, that no agreement is legal without a stamp. And so all of those things we haven't integrated as yet with the stamp office or TAJ, but we are actively in discussions with eGov, and so we will be automating that process. Again, we've just launched an application. Recently we did some auctions, the very first real estate auctions in Jamaica last year. Beg your pardon. Um, and we have some successful sales coming out of that, and that was the very first digital online auction in Jamaica. And we partnered with a licensed auctioneer. That would be Andrew James. He's one of our partners, and we are very excited about the success of that, and we are now trying to roll out and engage. Well, we've actively identified some property developers who can now list their properties on the platform, and we have about 3 realtor companies that are going to be listing their properties in a pilot coming up very shortly. So once the process get the pilot gets moving, we will be engaging with the NLA. We've already had discussions with NLA where we can automate the due diligence, where you want to do caveat searches. For example, if somebody kind of have a building on the property that goes over into somebody else's yard, or there's some breaches and so on, a caveat search would allow the purchaser to be comforted to say, yes, there's no problems with this property. I can go ahead and do all of the necessary things that I need to do with the sale, and rest assured that I won't have any problems. So we are actively looking at integrating with all the different statutory and support agencies, everybody that's involved in the real estate game.
I would ask. Let me ask the question. Currently, then, who are you partnered with in terms of the agencies required? Because I think that would sum up a couple of questions that was asked inside of the chat. So right. So if you can just give us, if you're able to give us the statutory agencies you currently are partnered with, about for the platform to work seamlessly, and the ones and list again the ones that you are actively in discussion with as well.
Okay, so right now, what we have for the pilot only engages the lawyers, the realtor companies, and the vendors and the purchasers. We are actively involved in discussions with eGov, so that we and the tax office, tax administration. So we are looking to integrate into their systems. One, to do verification of the documents that are submitted. So when you upload your driver's license, we'll be doing some verifications on that document. Again, it's all digital. You want to make sure that this is a real person. We are actively engaged in discussions with the NLA, Titles Office. What we'll be doing is, once the property is listed, the title, who has a right to sell this property, that will be verified. You want to make sure that you're dealing with the real vendor, because there are a lot of problems out there. People will sell your property and you walk up and you see somebody moving in and it's like, oh, you sold me your property. People, that is something that happens now.
Yes, I've heard
outside of the digital realm. So we're going to be integrating to enable those kind of automated due diligence.
If I may just kind of address Chike there. So I think to kind of get to the point that you're asking, Chike, is that, again, I like to say be disruptive within a framework, right? Now, the agencies that you're referring to, obviously they're public agencies, government agencies.
Yes, that's correct.
Right. And there's different due diligence on their side that needs to be done. There's different processes on their side that needs to be done, especially when engaging a private entity, right? So what we have done is we have verbally engaged. We've sat down with just about every entity that we could possibly need in a real estate transaction to say, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, this is where we'd like to go, this is how you could be involved. Now, we're also a private business, right? This is a private business model, and we're launching to the general public. So having said that, is what we're doing, or our approach is to launch our business model, make it as seamless as possible, while all the while actively pursuing those other engagements to ever continue to making the process seamless and engage with the relevant public entities.
Okay.
Yes, and we have begun discussions with the NHT. There's a lot of value for the NHT in this platform. People traveling from other parishes to come camp out at NHT office to submit their documents and so on. The NHT usually, right now, they say you should ensure that you have all your documents ready. So, whenever there's an opportunity you're running, this platform will allow them to be able to receive the applications and the supporting documents from would-be buyers, beneficiaries who want to, make an offer against maybe one of those, housing projects or open market projects. So yes, we have started to have discussions with the NHT, and that's going to be very exciting. A lot of social benefit as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so pretty much, if I understand you both correctly, the platform is designed for everybody at every stage to be involved. Not all of those conversations are finalized, but once they are, then would have the most efficient, most inclusive process possible, and it's a work in progress.
Yes and no.
Yes,
We are absolutely an operational platform. Everything that you saw us do, we can handle. It's up and running. We're doing auctions. So that part of it, but then also the other side of it is engaging the government entities and further streamlining the process is underway. So it's not as if we're not ready or we're not operational yet.
Okay, well,
yes.
that part, but I just wanted to, because, for example, the question that we have highlighted on the screen, Shireen is asking, how would you account for the time that the document spends at government offices? These things that you don't necessarily have any external
control of. Yeah.
Would have any control over, which is a big part of the time that we have to wait and get that. If
so
that
one big part of that, Clive, jump in here, but let me try.
Yeah.
One
Yeah,
big
go ahead.
part of that has to do with the valuation of a property, right? When it comes to stamp office. So for argument's sake, let us say you have a property in Negril. The valuation says it's $25 million for the property, but when it reaches to the stamp office now, they decide, nah, I don't think so. That could be a big problem. They could jump in a car right now and drive to Negril, and by this evening they say, you know what, okay, it's $25 million for the property. Or they could say, no, you need to have it revalued. Worst case scenario, it could sit there until they feel like driving to Negril and having it checked out, right? So that's a nuance. How we overcome that is again, strategic partners and working with the right people. There are extremely credible professionals in the industry that I don't want to say that are not questioned, but their credibility and their stature of who they are within the real estate industry would make it more likely that their valuations are pushed through. Because again, with the POCA, KYC, AML, and so on, the entities can rest assured that the right due diligence has taken place. And so it's about partnering with the right people to push the process as quickly as possible. That doesn't directly answer Shireen's question, but these are the things that we're trying to do to actually make the process a lot more streamlined and go through quicker.
And if I could quickly add transparency, the power of transparency on inefficient processes is not to be underestimated. Once people know that the process is being tracked digitally, and at the end of each week or each month or whenever, a report can be generated to see how many applications went to the stamp office, how many went to TAJ for valuation. As well, they actually have electronic systems. It's just that somebody has to go and type on the keyboard to pull the information and put it manually on the paper. Once you have that, once you start to bring in digital processes into play and it's auditable, what will happen is people will know, those bodies will have metrics and KPIs that they can use to measure performance. And that in itself is going to prompt people to start towing the line and do what they have to do. And of course, we know that there's money under the table. Sometimes people drag their feet just to get a tip and so on. Once it's digitized, a lot of those things will kind of be, it'll be challenging for them to drag their feet and go unnoticed.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a question here from Orville. Can this platform be used to obtain volume and folio numbers for properties previously sold or transferred?
Once we integrate fully with the NLA, that is something that will be integrated into the document process that was demonstrated. Once the title is shared, or the volume/folio number is shared, we can integrate into APIs that the NLA already has underutilized, but we will be able to plug in and do verification on the information about the property, the size of the property, as well as the caveat searches that I mentioned before. Those things as well are all identified by the volume and folio number, which is a unique identifier of the properties.
Okay.
And we'll also be integrating with the strata organization as well. So again, there's so many more bodies. As I'm sitting here, I just kind of going through my head about the different bodies that we are engaging and we'll be bringing into the process.
We have a huge wish list of partners and bells and whistles and so on. That's it. I think the collaboration between the two entities was a great one, because we're both super ambitious and I think extremely innovative in our approach. And so the platform, as you see it right here now, will give every type of investor. So I would imagine now you have a broad range of investors that are watching. You would have some persons that are considering buying a property. You have some persons that are seasoned in buying a property, and they will both understand the value as it is right now, and then appreciate the bells and whistles as they come on board.
Okay. All right. So we have a couple of more questions that I want to get out the way before we continue our discussion. So question of cost. What's the cost to use the system?
And I think that would be better answered if you broke up the different categories that you actually listed tonight. So pretty much, if you have a range for each category.
Yeah, if it's something that's not a straight answer, just pretty much just answer it.
Yeah. So the idea where cost is concerned is not to make the transaction process any more costly to the purchaser, not to necessarily take not to add anything more to someone purchasing a property. We are more on the fee side with professional services and different partnerships and so on. So for someone looking to actually purchase a property, they wouldn't necessarily have to worry about what this is going to cost me.
Okay, so if you're a purchaser or a seller, you'd have to worry. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Not so much with the seller. We do have options where it may cost the seller a little more, or there may be fees that are borne of the seller. But again, that's with different features, different possibilities there. But the point of the whole platform and what we're doing and the whole nature of being collaborative and being transparent and kind of democratizing the process is not to make the process any more expensive.
Okay, cool. I
think if I could quickly just speak to cost a little, just a small point on cost there. When you're renting a house and you've spent money to buy a property to move in, and you have to pay 4 months extra rent before you can move into your property, or before the property can be handed over to you. Discussions that we've had with realtors, and even the president of the REB, Andrew James, it articulates and underscores that, there's a lot of money, there's a lot of unnecessary costs right now that is being incurred at different points in the process because of the delays. These delays are very expensive. And that rent scenario is just one of the examples where significant money can be saved. And once we can deliver savings, a portion of that could pay for the platform.
Okay. So Shireen is asking, would you say your platform is similar or completely different from Get Keys? I think it's pronounced.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay. Which is it?
Yes,
similar?
It is different. There are some similarities and some differences. So our platform focuses on completing the end-to-end processing of property conveyance. So we are doing offer management. Keys is just another listing service, just like the MLS. We actually have a listing component where we're looking to integrate into a third-party listing services as well. But the value really comes when you can now have a automated offer management process, and then it segues smoothly into the sale agreement process, and then now it segues into the sale execution process, and the integrations are going to be very critical as well to make that work seamlessly from end to end. One point I wanted to raise is that you may not know, or you may know that the National Land Agency and the government, they have a program. There is a program underway, a project to digitize titles. So, probably, I think the window is like 10 to 15 years. after 10 to 15 years, once the project is up and running and so on, proper titles for properties, the paper will no longer be valid. It will all be digital. Would all be digital. And so, the way people go about doing these manual, you know, property purchases and so on, that's going to be a thing of the past. So what we are doing is we are actually preparing that framework, that marketplace, that platform that will allow all the different players to be able to do what they have to do and to do that final handover piece with the NLA to digitally transfer the title of the property within fractions of a second. And we've already been engaging the NLA on what those requirements are, as well as doing our due diligence in terms of the legal requirements, etc.
Okay, so I have to ask this question based on some of the things we've been seeing in the news lately. In terms of, so that data you're collecting, the securing of that data, that are we, can users be comfortable with all the data and information that you will be collecting on their behalf to facilitate these transactions?
Yes, most definitely. The document management process that we have, it is going to be expanded further. Other than, besides having the regular, the usual online data encryption, in terms of data in motion being encrypted, we use SSL or TLS to encrypt data between your browser and the server. We also have all the data that is stored in the cloud in secure facilities, the AWS we use. And the data is actually securely encrypted in storage as well. We have a blockchain component, and if without going into too much detail about the blockchain, storage facility that we have, the data cannot be accessed without using decryption and encryption, and each user will have their own secure certificate that is managed via the platform. And so, and of course, you can do some more research yourself. Again, time is very limited to explain the benefits and the security of having a blockchain infrastructure manage and secure data. But it is going to be very secure.
Okay.
So just to kind of touch on that, it's an extremely valid concern. Every single step of the way, and I suppose this is kind of my word here to you guys, but every single step of the way, we've gone above and beyond to engage the relevant professionals. Sheldon Poe, who is obviously a part of Innovate 10X, is extremely versed in security and so on. Clive is a highly qualified. What would you, a system architect, Clive?
Yes, enterprise/solution architect.
Right. So sorry if I diminished your title there. I can't remember. So one thing, not to kind of make light of the situation, but one thing I always say is I can't remember all of the meanings of all the letters and acronyms behind Sheldon and Clive's names. And they're both extremely highly qualified and experienced professionals where this is concerned.
I just had to ask because especially one of the concerns I personally have is just how much data I have to share to do business in general. So, I was saying it to someone just the other day that just to take out a service somewhere, I have to give them all of my information, and I have no idea how they're securing that information. So we see these stories, come out of breaches, and to me, the most scary ones are the ones we don't hear about. It's not even the ones that you hear about. It's the ones that are probably gone unnoticed that nobody talks about. So it's just something that I think persons more and more will be more concerned about. So them hearing it from you as the persons who have created the system, for what it's worth, will give them, I think, a great assurance, and a third party saying it, or just persons assuming that it might have been considered.
Absolutely. And I mean, reach out and ask us any questions that you need to feel comfortable, and we're more than willing to assure you. Obviously we're entrepreneurs that love to build tech, but at the same time we're not just entrepreneurs that love to build tech. You get me? All of us are extremely highly qualified professionals, and we're doing the right thing.
Okay.
Yeah,
right,
if I could just answer Lisa Marie's question.
Okay, great. That's what I was gonna ask. All right.
Yeah, so essentially, yes, it's on the roadmap. We, as I mentioned earlier, we do have on the roadmap integration with MLS and other listing services. Again, you know, in the ecosystem, what we need is to have everybody integrated. That's how we're gonna realize efficiency, transparency, etc. So we have already begun the process of looking into integrating with the MLS, and that's actually going to be happening in a couple months or so. Once we finalize our relationship with some of our pilot realtor companies, because they're all integrated into the MLS. And of course, you know, we are open to working with Get Keys and anybody else who wants to, get integrated to work together. So we can, it's a win-win-win for everybody.
Okay. Sounds good. So Lisa is asking how you can be reached. Lisa, we're gonna share their contact information in the description. So, you know, emails or social media, or we'll just the website URL, and I'm assuming that your contact details are on the website as well. So we'll share all of that in the description of this video. So does that answer your question, Lisa? Hopefully so. We'll see. If it was misunderstood, Lisa, then please rephrase. So what I was hoping that we could do, so we've gone almost an hour. I was hoping that we could talk a little bit about the investment side of real estate. You know, what are some of the things, based on your knowledge of the industry, what are some of the things that one should look out for? Because we are an investment community. So when we learn about a tool and a resource like this, the very first thing we're thinking about is, how does this help me as an investor? What are some of the things that you can share based on your knowledge of the industry that can help the investor?
Okay, sure. So if I'm to understand correctly, there's kind of two aspects to that. Is how this platform, JPEN's platform, will actually help the investor.
Yep.
And then real estate as an asset itself, as an investment vehicle itself, correct?
Yep, correct.
Okay. Let's kind of put out there as a disclaimer. I'm not saying you should buy real estate. I'm not saying you should not buy real estate or any other.
We're definitely, so everything that we do here is for educational purposes.
Right.
And it is just for your information. We really do not steer persons one way or the other. We just provide the information and they make the decision as to what they want to do. So
perfect. So there's a lot of considerations to take place, right? So I think the easiest place to start is kind of how the platform would help the real estate investor. So there's going to be two types of investors, I believe. Would be, let's say, the individual looking to purchase one or two homes, maybe a first home, a second or third home. And then we'd have the real estate developer or someone that manages a portfolio of properties, right? Obviously, everything that we spoke about before, from document management to listing management, the ability to rent, sell, or auction the properties digitally, that's a huge help right there. And then breaking down the time. So as we mentioned before, going from this kind of nuanced transaction process that lasts months to literally breaking it down to something that can be done in a week or two, and instantly. So that's kind of how, unless there's specific questions, that's kind of a high level overview of how and summary, if you will, of what we spoke about earlier, or everything that we spoke about the platform up until this point. Now, in real estate as an investment, there's a lot of considerations, and I think you have to understand kind of what's your goals. Why are you investing in real estate, right? a lot of people would say, you should always invest in real estate, and I would say, but why? Why? It's not the only asset out there.
Question. Yep.
Pardon?
I said that's always my first question. Why?
Yeah, exactly. Why? And I get it. It's kind of one of those milestones that you aspire for, right? Your roof over your own head. But from an investment standpoint, you also have to know why. Is this your first home? Is this your forever home? Is it just a flip? Is it income generation, right? What are your goals? Do you need cash income? So earlier I heard Chike was a value investor. So he may be looking to invest in something that appreciates maybe quicker than real estate in the Jamaican market. Or maybe you're looking for something to bring you income on a monthly basis, which again brings its own nuances. So if you're looking for income on a monthly basis, then you'll have to ask yourself, is the rental of this particular property that I'm going to invest in going to cover my mortgages, going to cover my expenses, and still outperform inflation over the next year, and to make it a feasible investment, right? Going back to value investing, or it's just like an asset, like a stock, right? Is it a dividend stock or a growth stock? Is this stock something that may not grow very quickly, but I know I'm going to get my dividends every quarter or every 6 months, every year, as it may be? Or if you're a value investor, then you may look for a property that's pre-construction as opposed to something that's already on the market. Reason being is that typically you will find pre-construction homes would appreciate a lot quicker than something that's already on the market. So I actually found one of the things that the platform is helping to do as well is generate a lot of data around the real estate market itself. So most of the people in here, if you've ever tried to find statistics around real estate value or real estate whatsoever, it's super fragmented, super difficult, right? And so one of the things I found was from a blog, I think it's actually run by a long lost friend of mine, Jillian Jackson. It's called Financial Sensibility. You're laughing, you know, Julian?
Yes, we both do.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I haven't seen Jillian in years, but she's a long lost friend of mine, and I stumbled across her blog, which is Financial Sensibility, and she was quoting a BOJ statistic where I think it's between 2013 and now the average growth of real estate has been 3.3 to 4.4% per year, right? So the housing market is not this rocket of an asset that's going to return you 10, 15, 20% a year. It is a safe investment. Typically speaking, it will appreciate. It's something
safer, not
perfect.
Yeah.
Please. A safer investment, something that will appreciate. It is a physical asset that you will have. Also, you have real estate vehicles, right, that are traded publicly. I think those she had mentioned was returning about 4% per annum as well, right? Again, and then so it really comes down to, are you looking for income or are you looking for growth, right? Appreciation kind of versus cash flow. Another thing to consider is, can you afford the mortgage? Right? And not because you qualify for a $200,000 mortgage doesn't mean you should necessarily get a $200,000 mortgage. You should also kind of ask yourself, what if I got a mortgage for $100,000 or $150,000? What can I do with that other money? And then as investors, you kind of always want to think, how can I diversify my portfolio? And not to make that sound big or sophisticated, but your portfolio could be anything. Your portfolio is your home. It could be your insurance, your life insurance. It could be the other assets that you have. And it could be investment. So one of the BOJ statistics that I read quite some time, or maybe a couple of years ago, was that 1% of Jamaicans have any type of investment, right?
Just 1%.
Yeah, just 1%. I read this statistic maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, best case scenario, if that appreciated 100%, we're looking at 2%. Right? Pardon?
I said, even if that's quadrupled by now, it's still a very small number.
Exactly. And these are the things that we have to look at, right? There's a concept that I love to speak about, and it's being house poor, right? Where you go ahead and you purchase, you're laughing. You understand what I'm saying? Is because you go ahead and you purchase this lovely home of your dreams. But then now you can't afford much more.
That's right. Yeah. Same thing with the car as well too. You buy a
exactly, and I have a big problem with that in Jamaica as well. Is that, I mean, not to go off on a tangent, but it's easier to get a loan for a big fancy car that you can barely service than it is to get a business loan.
We talk about it all the time. We actually it grinds our gears. We talk about it all the time.
So, for instance, I know someone right now, early 20s, makes quite a bit of money looking at a piece of property that's nearly 700,000 US, right? Now, can they afford it? Physically speaking, they have the money to be able to pay for it, right? But is it fiscally responsible? In my opinion, it is not, right? Reason being is because starting out at such an early age, you have the opportunity to maybe invest in a property that's far less, or maybe invest in
multiple ones. That's right. Yeah.
Exactly. Or maybe even build a small apartment block if you're looking for investing. There's just so much more that you could do with that money rather than tie it up. Your age also plays a big factor in considering real estate and what you're going to do with it, right? Are you looking at a 30-year mortgage or a 15-year mortgage? These are the things that you have to look at as well. And
also after the mortgage as well too, all of those expenses that you have, homeowners insurance, etc. It's not just about buying the property, but it's also about the upkeep of the property and everything that comes behind that as well too.
Yes. Exactly. So actually, for me, when my wife and I were deciding to buy a home, we really went through the rent versus buy conversation, and we actually projected, okay, if we're paying rent, these are the options. This is the lifestyle that we'd be able to live versus if we were paying a mortgage. Mortgage it's not the same mindset. If you're renting, if you wanted to leave next weekend, you just look for a new place and you go. Selling a property is not as easy if you want to move on from it. So there were pros and cons that we looked at, and ultimately we decided to buy a home for personal reasons. But I was of the mindset before we bought the home that I don't mind renting for maybe the next 10 years because I can maybe invest that money. Because I also thought about the deposit. That's a lump sum that I have to pay, that maybe I could have invested that money in something else and get a more reasonable return in the short term. And I'm not one that's, so as I know we saw a big boost in property values over maybe the last 10 to 15 years, but I think just like with any other asset, there are maybe periods or cycles to it. And I don't know about you, Xavier, but I haven't seen the same growth that we saw maybe earlier. So whereas, properties are still growing, maybe not at the same pace as they were maybe 10 years ago when it went from 200,000 to 20 million or 1 million to 50. It's not going to have that same jump anymore. So I weigh those things when I think about, buying a home. But it's a part of my portfolio as a means to diversify, because it's an asset that's not going to be very volatile in terms of value. And sure, I may have to pay some fees to sell it, but it's likely if I hold it 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it's likely to appreciate enough to cover my cost of sale plus, something on top of that. So that's kind of how my, thought process goes for real estate.
No, you're absolutely right, and there's a very hidden aspect or a very hidden metric that I mentioned earlier, that goes right into what you were saying. So you said when you purchase a property, you're looking at all the expenses. Your HOA or your maintenance, a pipe breaks, or your roof needs fixing. And all of those eats into, if you're an investor and you're looking for return on your money, all of that eats into your return. There's also inflation, right? That's a big. So if you're looking strictly from an investment standpoint, if you're saying, all right, let me put money into this asset because I want this asset to grow in value, You have to ask yourself right now. So let's do some quick math right here. Based on the BOJ statistics, let's just say it's growing. Your property is growing at 4.4% per year, right? Now let's just say you're making some amount of money on that every single year. You rent out the property and you're making another 2% or 3% after you take out expenses from your rental income, right? So let's say you're at even 7%, right? Inflation in Jamaica is 5%. So where does that net you? That nets you at 2%, right? Now, what if you had taken that same money and put into the market? What is the market going to give you? Right? What is the bond going to give you? And then you kind of go, okay, what are you trying to beat? So what is your personal goal, right? Are you trying to do a little better than a risk-free rate, right? Are you someone that's super conservative? Would you invest in a government bond and you're looking for something that will beat a government bond, just edge out the risk-free rate a little bit? Or are you somebody that's looking to kind of beat the market, right? A lot of people say, you would never ever beat the market. So these are the things that you have to kind of look at. The Jamaican market for the past couple of years, it's a little difficult, right? Because you look at the Jamaican stock market on a whole now. So when we refer to the market, we're not referring to any one particular stock or any. We're looking at the entire Jamaica Stock Exchange on a whole, the index or the indices, right? And so for the past few years, what you would have seen is we're in the news as the best performing stock market in the world, and that's exciting, right? That's good. And not to bash it, obviously that's good, but at the same time, you kind of have to look at what that means over time. So you can't look at the past 3 years and say, well, in 2017, there was 57% growth, and then in 2018, there was, I think it was 2017 or 2018, thereabout. I don't remember the figures for the rest, but it's up there. Right? The stock market is doing well.
We dropped out of the top spot last year. If David was here, I'm sure David would know all these numbers.
So we're doing good. But what I'm saying is that you kind of have to put that over a 10, 15, 20-year period if you're considering where to put your money, because 3 years makes not a trend, right? You really need to consider these things. So I think to kind of, before we take questions, or if I find any, so then if you're looking at property as well, if you're looking at other markets, that's something that you can do. But then the considerations there, you have country risk, you have foreign exchange risk. So there are other markets outside of Jamaica that a lot of people go to, where the rent is a lot higher than Jamaica. The disposable income or the consumer purchasing power is a lot higher. And you'd actually be surprised to know that to purchase property in those markets, it's not that difficult. So I'll give you two extremes. In Jamaica, we all know it is difficult unless you're going to put down a sizable deposit to actually rent your property for less than the rent. Sorry, to rent your property for more than the mortgage and the HOA and all the expenses that comes with it. It's very difficult. It's not as easy as just buying a property and renting it. However, there are markets that do that. Cayman, for instance, is one such location. The UAE, for instance, is one such location. I mentioned those two in particular because I happen to know that both of them, they're driven by financial markets. They're driven by expats. They're driven by somewhat of a process of gentrification, right? Where their economies are so desired that it starts to send up the price. But you'd be surprised to know that while expensive, their real estate is not unattainable, and the rent that you can make is actually really, really good.
Yeah.
But again, the considerations that you have to make, the country risk, right? The foreign exchange risk. What is your Jamaican dollar going to translate to or in the UAE? Let's use an example of country risk, right? For instance, in the news recently, let's say you bought a piece of property in Dubai, right? Easy to do. It's not as utopic as it might sound. The rental market is usually great, but there's a glut on the market now. I think of like 40-something thousand units available. which is bad for the people that own, but people are still renting and the rents are very, very high, right? But country risk, the point I'm getting at is going back to country risk. Dubai is a monarchy, right? Just recently in the news, the princess came out of alleging that her father,
isolation, yeah,
right, her father, the Sheikh of Dubai, is literally holding her hostage. That's her allegations. Now, country risk, what does that mean? Are other countries going to start putting sanctions on the UAE
against them?
I don't know. I'm just saying these are the things you have to consider when coming out of your own country. So not because a market seems great, should you just immediately jump into it, you explore. So that's not to scare anybody out of divesting or looking outside of Jamaica, but you just have to kind of consider all of these things, you know?
It brings a very important part. So there's no risk-free investment, right? No matter how sure it feels, how great it feels, no matter what it says online that it's been up X percent, usually the rule is the faster it can grow, the greater the risk. So persons don't really think of investments
both ways.
Exactly. So as much as it can go up, it can devalue as well. And sometimes what I did, for example, is look at the money I paid for my property, including fees. You know, because the cost of the asset is not the selling price, it's your final price after fees. And so when I did that valuation, I'm looking at the difference between what I paid in total versus what that valuation showed me, and that was my assessed return. So you have to kind of count the cost, as we would say, you know, scripturally, count the cost of owning the asset, count the cost of liquidating the asset if you need to. So one of the things I actually do that can help some investors here, I count a sort of, just like a car has a forced sale value, I look at all my assets and say, if I had to liquidate them today, what am I expecting to be able to sell them for upfront, including fees, that will give me cash in my hand. So if I have, you know, even I do the same with stocks. So even though a stock might be valued $10, but I have 10,000 units, can I sell all 10,000 right away? If not, I may have to settle for an $8 price, which now drives on that for sale value. So to speak. Yeah, I think about that way. And especially for real estate, I've seen properties on sale for months or years and they're not moving. You may have to sell that for lower than what it's worth to get it to sell.
Correct.
No, absolutely. You see that all the time. There is, so based on your audience, as we're saying, you know, you have a very diverse audience, and I would imagine there's a lot of people obviously looking to get into real estate or just a general knowledge. So if you are someone out there that's looking to get into development, so to speak, I love development. I want to get into development myself. I think it's great, but it always comes, how do you even get the land to start developing, right? Exactly. And there's a bunch of different ways, right? I mean, you know, a friend, you make a deal, you have a family member, you borrow some money or you make a deal with them. But there's a purchase option agreement that people use. Big companies use them, big developers use them, and it's super simple in the sense that, let us say we identify a property that we want. We may go to that property owner and say, hey, I don't have the money right now, but I'd like to buy your land if I could develop it, right? Can I enter into a purchase option agreement with you where, and it's an agreement, right? It's a negotiation. So you may say to the landowner, I tell you what, for this purchase option agreement, I'll pay for your property taxes for 1 year, and you keep this agreement valid for 1 year. Or you may say, I tell you what, your land has a value of, and you also, obviously you kind of have to do like your net present value now and then kind of project what the land may be worth in the future. And you say, okay, well, your land at the end of this year is going to be worth $1 million. I'll give you 10% above what it's valued if I exercise this purchase option agreement, but you give me the first right to refusal for sale. And so you could take that purchase option agreement now and potentially go to a contractor, a developer, somebody else with money and say, hey, listen, I have this land, we can build on it, and exercise this purchase option agreement. So you don't necessarily have to even put money up front. And these are different things that you can look on if you're looking to get into real
I like
estate.
the prospect of that. Chike, what do you say? You put up the money and we can co-own the property.
That idea has always been there for me, and actually, the joke about that is it's not even a joke. It's really serious. There's been years ago that a couple close friends and I have had that thought process. What we originally wanted to do. This is a long time ago. They actually had that thought. We were gonna buy a piece of land and we would all basically turn it into our own gated community. What that has transformed into actually very presently, because we're actually having this discussion. So we were looking at, and as you rightfully mentioned, Xavier, you're either going pre-constructed or already constructed. So like, we know the hot places already. Anywhere near with a beachfront property is going to be expensive just off the bat, especially anywhere around the island. So we were looking at maybe not necessarily at the beach, but a little bit more inland, or maybe mountainside area with an overview of the ocean kind of setup, and coming completely out of the hotbed north coast, anywhere along the north coast. So we'd go to the south this time and then come inward, right? Pretty much. And we were generally looking at it and saying, hey, we should just, what we do is instead of building separate houses, we build one big villa. Because the truth about it is we are still working. So we build one big villa in which we could all gather and we can all meet, etc. So it would have that space. Or we build like 2 villas based on the amount of land space that we've gotten. So I fully get that. I fully understand that. Because even right now, I'm into property management. Not in that, because we have family connected, we have Airbnb and so forth. And I mean, I understand how it goes in truth. So yeah, that has been a thing. Maybe in the next week we have looked in it and we've given ourselves a 10-year timeline to do it, because it will be perfect. You know, you get a couple acres of land, depending on where it is, and you put on a nice villa. And as you rightfully said, Xavier, if you have the connections in terms of persons that you know, make use of that. And the most difficult thing possibly is the land. Once you have everything else there and it's procured, you build when you want.
No, I was going to say, Chike, there's a very important piece to it about that scenario you mentioned that is very important, and that's the peace of mind, knowing who you'll be living or owning that property. Because the scariest things is when you go and look at a place, you love it, and then you go outside and you don't know anybody who is around you, so you don't necessarily feel safe. And that's a big thing in terms of owning property, because one, if you're the one that's going to live there, that's something that you want to think about the neighborhood and how that affects the cost of your property and your safety. And it also impacts your rental, because if it's not an attractive location, then it's going to be harder to maybe charge the price that you want to charge for rental. So that's, having the ability to own property with others who are your friends or family or whoever, it's very, very attractive.
Definitely an advantage. I would add, and this is coming from seeing the management of one of ours. You just have to be very cognizant of the property that you're buying, especially if it's going to be a gated community kind of property. Finding out about the strata. I think one of the mistakes, well, it's not a mistake. I don't like to say mistakes. I say learning lessons. One of the learning lessons I observed close friend is holding on to property for too long when you're seeing it sliding into being a loss. What is that? What does that really mean? It's not a single dwelling. It's basically a gated community setup. It could be a north coast property that you have, your getaway, your vacation getaway, but it's not being upkept. I saw that happen with a couple of places on the north coast that I was connected to, and I was thinking to myself, why wasn't this sold already? The pool wasn't being maintained properly. There was rust all over the place. And when you check it, the meetings, when you go to the strata, it was just people couldn't agree on what was going on. So, I mean, you've got to be understanding of those and see when you're about to have difficulty and know when to get out. So I always tell Jermaine, I don't fall in love with stuff in terms of with companies, anything like that. If it is because I don't want a headache. So it serves a purpose. And then once it starts to become something debilitating where I'm putting too much capital into it, or should I say it turns into expenses. And then I'm no longer deriving the satisfaction in terms of the joy. And it's just, as you said, I'm a long-term investor. So I have the love for if it's going to be property. It's something nice that I appreciate. I more than likely want to stay there myself. I don't necessarily want to have an interest to rent it out like that. But when you see it sliding into a situation where it's not being upkept very well, you're having loggerheads with the strata management board, etc. It's really time to think of.
If I may cut in, Chika, I'm glad you brought up that point, because that's definitely something I wanted to touch on as well. So there's two things that you just mentioned, right? It's obviously now, let's call it throwing good money on top of bad, right? When your property is starting to go downhill. But before that, strata operates within a legal framework, correct? A regulated framework. So
yeah,
important to know. So strata can be good, strata can be bad. A lot of people have issues with their strata, but it's not necessarily, in my opinion, it's not necessarily the strata, it's the person trying to manage a strata within your complex, right? The strata can be a friend. So if you have barbed wire around the community and it's falling down, they have to fix that because you pay your fees, right? To not kind of make this overly complicated or too long, the essence of it is use a strata to protect your investment. Use a strata to ensure that your property continues to grow in value and doesn't devalue. Because going into the next point that Chike was making is, from an investor standpoint as well, what you don't want to do is start throwing good money on top of bad and turning upside down on your property to where you're paying a mortgage on a property that's valued less than you bought it for, essentially.
Very true.
And then, as Chika correctly said, you start losing money, and if the property is going into disrepair, then obviously your rent is going down as well. So use a strata for the good that it was meant to be used for.
Right.
Okay. All right, so we have one final question, but before we take this final question to close, I want to ask everyone who has been watching, please leave this video a like. When you like it, it tells YouTube that you enjoyed it and it shows it to more people. Also, please share it with your friends and your family. Subscribe, please, and let's take a question from...
Oh, and additionally, any further questions that you guys you have as well, to please post them in the comments.
Definitely. All right, so you seeing the question, Xavier?
Can a piece of land valued at, let us say, 20 million be placed under a POA where the developer develops a property into a complex and offers some of the units to the owner valued at 20 million? The short answer is yeah, it's an agreement, right? The longer answer is, what you would want to do is, remember, your land has some amount of value, right? So you'd probably want to enter in some kind of profit share where you get back the cost of your land. That's the first thing. Then maybe you get a unit or two, depending on what you work out with the developer, or you get the cost of your land plus some kind of profit share on the sales of the unit. So once you make sure you come out of there earning money, then I would say there's no wrong or right way to do it. Everything is negotiation. So just make sure you get back the cost of your land plus a premium.
Yeah, I agree.
I actually had that based on understanding this. I actually saw that happen with a property that was sold for us, and that was the first thing I asked my family, the person who was doing it. I was like, hold on, you know that this is a valuable piece of property where it sits here. You're asking them for an agreement because they wanted to just outright buy the land. I'm like, see if we can sell it but you get a couple of those because they're gonna build. I saw it already. They were gonna build, complex on it. And my family member was like, nope, they wanted no part of that. They were like, either selling me the property, either selling me the land, or otherwise. And I mean, we didn't want it. He didn't want it anymore, so it was let go. So as you said, Xavier, the money went. You got back the amount for the property, right? That was really it, and we called it a day. So yeah, that happened a couple of years ago. So I get it, but some people don't want to enter into that type of agreement with you because.
If you kind of really want to know your worth and you get down into the value of it, then what you could do is you could even I mean, if the developer is making an agreement with you, right, and they want your land, ask them questions. What are you going to put on there? And then you can kind of work out the value of what that development is going to be. If your land is $20 million and they're making $200 million on it, negotiate, make your money. Why should you make 30 or
here's the investment? Yeah. Good point.
Agreed. So someone saying, a lot of persons have problems with strata because people want the service but they don't want to pay for it. That's a whole nother discussion.
That's a different discussion right there.
People don't like paying for things in general. They want the value but they don't want to pay. Like that's just across the board. And we have a question asking, where can you go to learn everything? So Xavier, which book can we read to teach us everything that you've shared with us tonight?
So I'm doing my master's in international corporate finance. You could do that. Jokes aside, just ask questions, take part in things like this. Google is your friend, YouTube is your friend. If there is something that you need help with, reach out to these guys. They're a community of investors. I think what you probably would, if you're someone that's looking into, if you have a piece of land, and you're looking into that kind of thing, look into probably how to value your land properly, how to value projects. So what you'd probably do is a discounted cash flow or a net present value of the project. So, and the only reason I know that it's not something that you would know right off the top of your head is I do financial modeling, asset valuation, business valuation. But having said that, you can learn these things on YouTube. How to value the future value of a project, then so to speak.
CFI's YouTube channel is a good one to kind of subscribe. They do a lot.
Corporate Finance Institute.
So
yeah, and then again, things like this, talk to people.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say to Rick, because what I find a lot of these things that, I mean, everything that I've shared is either personal experience or my network. And so that's where you get a lot of the true stories, the situations, the kind of, not really the behind the scenes, but the real way that these deals get done, right? So talk to people, network, try to understand the process. If you're interested in a form of investment, you need to invest the time to understand everything that affects investment, so that's what we're advocates for.
And I mean, I know we're running on time, but I think to kind of wrap up is you said it best, and it kind of touches on everything that we said, right? Investing in real estate, you need to understand it, because I think one of the things that we clearly identified this evening is that you need to understand, one, why you're going to invest in real estate, and if you're investing in a particular property, what that property comes with, the expenses. So drill down, what can it make you in rent, what is it going to cost you to acquire, what is it going to cost you to liquidate, what is the inflation rate of the country. So if you're going to make 4% on a property per annum but the inflation rate is 5%, don't make any sense, right? Look up things like the alpha of an investment. So what's the alpha of this investment going to be? And the alpha is your excess returns over the market value. So if you can get 9% over, let's say, the Jamaican market, right, will give you on average 9% over 10-15 years, and you can see that, well, maybe you want to make 10, 12, 15%, and the alpha is that difference, right? If you're not making alpha, then why bother take the excess risk? Invest in the market or invest in maybe government bonds or something that's more conservative. So know what you're getting into, know what it's going to cost you, and know what it's going to make you, because it may not be worth the risk.
Yeah, agreed.
I have one thing to add for the way places that you can find information. There are also courses online as well too, and they're not expensive as well too. I actually have a few, like 2 of them to finish on real estate investing that I got off of Udemy. I did my research on the persons who were going to present it. Sorry, and they had very good reviews, and I basically picked up both courses for like $10 a piece. And I mean, I'm sure you could find it on YouTube, as you rightfully said as well too. But some things, to get more value out of it, you have to spend a little bit of money. And those courses are now like $100 on Udemy, and they have sales. So they brought it down at that point in time to like $10. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, Udemy is great. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to type into the comments here, but I guess tech is not.
Oh no, you have to be. But if you type it in a private chat, I can post.
Udemy is a good one, and Wall Street Mojo. So Rick, I think you were asking Wall Street Mojo, check them out.
Okay.
All right, so I think we can wrap up here, Xavier, and I mean, let me just thank the entire JPEN team, even the ones able to make it here tonight. Thank you so much. We're definitely going to be talking again, because there's some ideas that are coming to me as you're speaking that we'll be reaching out to you for maybe another episode or two. We'll want to thank you so much. We'll take all of your contact, place it in the description. For everyone who is here, final call, please like the video, please subscribe, please share our channel, and thank you. We will be back on Monday with an interesting episode, so please turn on your notifications, make sure that you are aware whenever we release a new video, and take care.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the audience.
Thanks again to the team, to you guys, Xavier. Great information.
Most welcome. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, everyone. Care.